This is Apollo Control Houston at 17 hours 23 minutes now into the flight of Apollo 13. Our digital displays presently show the Apollo 13 spacecraft at 79,919 nautical miles away from Earth and traveling at a velocity of 6,350 feet per second. We've had no voice communications or contact with Apollo 13 crewman Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, or Fred Hayes since they started their rest period. Meanwhile, this has provided a period of quiet planning in the Mission Control Center. One of the items being planned, mid-course correction number 2, we'll pass along preliminary planning numbers for you now. We're presently looking at a ground elapsed time of 30 hours, 40 minutes, 57 seconds for MCC2, with a delta V, or velocity, of 23 feet per second. This, of course, will be performed with the service propulsion system of the command module, and with a burn duration now planned of 3.25 seconds. Of course, these numbers will be reviewed and updated as the mission progresses. We're now at 17 hours 25 minutes into the flight of Apollo 13, and this is Apollo Control Houston. This is Apollo Control Houston at 18 hours 22 minutes since the start of the Apollo 13 mission. We now show Apollo 13 83,396 nautical miles out from Earth, traveling now at a speed of 6,157 feet per second. At this time, the Apollo 13 crew continues in their rest period, and meanwhile in mission control we will continue to monitor for any conversations or transmissions if they, in the unlikely event they should occur. We're at 83 hours 23 minutes into the flight. This is Apollo Control Houston. This is Apollo Control Houston at 19 hours 22 minutes now into the flight of Apollo 13. We've just concluded another silent hour in Mission Control Center as the Apollo 13 crew is still sleeping. Meanwhile, backup Commander John Young has joined Jack Lausma at the capsule communicators console. At this point, we'll relay some flight dynamics data developed during this period of relative inactivity. Apollo 13 will reach its midpoint in its trip to the moon in terms of distance at an altitude of 112,070 nautical miles. This will occur at a ground elapsed time of 27 hours, 20 minutes, 49 seconds. The spacecraft's velocity relative to the moon will be 4,207 feet per second. Relative to the Earth, its velocity will be 4,990 feet per second. Apollo 13 will be at its midway point in terms of time, and our point of reference here is the lunar orbit insertion, now forecast to occur at 77 hours, 26 minutes, 12 seconds. its midway point would be at a ground elapsed time of 38 hours, 43 minutes, 6 seconds. At that point, Apollo 13 will be at an altitude of 85,684 nautical miles away from the moon, and traveling away from the Earth at a distance of 141,764 nautical miles. Its velocity relative to the moon, 3,776 feet per second. Its velocity relative to the Earth, 4,098 feet per second. Apollo 13 should go into the lunar sphere of influence at a ground elapsed time of 62 hours, 49 minutes, 0 seconds. Its distance at that time away from the moon will be 33,821 nautical miles. Distance away from the Earth, 190,713 nautical miles. And traveling at a velocity of 3,641 feet per second relative to the moon, and 3,025 feet per second relative to the Earth. We're now at 19 hours, 25 minutes into the flight of Apollo 13, and this is Apollo Control Houston. This is Apollo Control Houston at 20 hours, 22 minutes. Now into the flight of Apollo 13. Our display now shows the Apollo 13 spacecraft at 90,380 nautical miles away from Earth, continuing to slow down. Its velocity presently reading 5,843 feet per second. Meanwhile, in the mission control, one of our multi-purpose countdown clocks shows that the Apollo 13 crew has 2 hours, 37 minutes remaining in their rest period. We're at 20 hours, 23 minutes into the flight, and this is Apollo Control Houston. This is Apollo Control Houston. We wish to make an announcement that the Rider Pool meeting, this is a Rider Pool for the Mission Operations Control Room, is getting underway at the present time in the small auditorium in Building 1. This is Apollo Control Houston. This is Apollo Control Houston at 21 hours, 21 minutes. Now into the flight of Apollo 13. Apollo 13 is now 93,640 nautical miles away from Earth. Its velocity now reading 5,699 feet per second. There's 1 hour, 38 minutes remaining for the rest period of Jim Lovell, Jack Swigert, and Fred Hayes. Based on Madrid tracking, of the S-4B. We're presently predicting a point of impact of 8 degrees, 35 minutes south, 33 degrees, 54 minutes west, at a ground elapsed time of 77 hours, 51 minutes, 32 seconds. These are very early numbers and subject to considerable refinement through further tracking. We're at 21 hours, 22 minutes, and continuing to monitor. This is Apollo Control, Houston. This is Apollo Control, Houston, at 21 hours, 55 minutes since liftoff. Apollo 13 is presently 95,511 nautical miles out from Earth and now traveling at a speed of 5,620 feet per second. In Mission Control Center, we're now experiencing a changeover in flight control teams. The Lunny team has reported aboard, replacing Gene Kranz's team of flight controllers. At the capsule communicator position, Joe Kerwin is in now in place of Jack Lausma. For the entire shift, we had no contact with the crew as they were in a rest period. Jack Lausma, although he served as our capsule communicator, can be distinguished by the fact he had absolutely nothing to say over the loop this morning. We're at 21 hours, 56 minutes into the flight, and this is Apollo Control, Houston.
This is Apollo Control at 23 hours, 12 minutes, ground elapsed time. Apollo 13 now 99,589 nautical miles out from Earth. Velocity continuing to decelerate, now showing 5,453 feet per second in velocity. Spacecraft Commander Jim Lovell just called Houston about some 12 minutes past the scheduled wake-up time. It had been decided here in Mission Control to let the crew sleep as long as they wanted to this morning because it's a rather relaxed day. We'll play back the tape now of this first few sentences of conversation and rejoin any subsequent conversation live.
And we're starting to charge battery A, Houston.
Roger on battery A, Fred. ECOM says battery B looks real good.
Okay. Houston.
Go ahead.
Okay, for information, Fred was on comm last night, and he was over in the left-hand seat. And if you want our radiation readings, we goofed. We left them all in the suits, which are now nicely tucked away. We're going to get out Jackson in an hour or so anyway. We'll get his coming around if you want to get the reading on that one.
Okay, Jim, that'll be satisfactory. And
okay.
In exchange for that, surgeon would like to have a rough number of hours each of you slept in a qualitative verb to describe whether it was good, fair, or poor.
Okay, stand by. Okay, Houston, we had an average around 5.5 hours.
got pretty garbled there just as you start to talk.
Houston, Apollo 13.
Okay, 13, you're loud and clear again.
We averaged about 5.5 hours sleep apiece, and we're estimating that the sleep was good.
Okay, copy that. Let's see what else we got for you, Jim. Mid-course 2 looks like about 23 feet per second, approximately retrograde and on time. And it's holding real firm there. For your information, and you don't need to copy this down because it's still pretty soft, but we have an S4B impact of about 8.57 south and about 33.9 west, which is a little west and a little south of the flight plan value. We have it at a GET of about 77 plus 51, which is just before AOS on the LOI pass, or a little bit late. And as I say, it's still pretty soft, and we'll be updating you with firm numbers.
That's fine, Joe, just as long as it doesn't hit Cove Crater.
Okay. And I'll have a consumables update for you in a little while. And I have a small flight plan update for you sometime a little later on when you're ready to copy. There's no big deals in it.
All right, Roger.
And 13, Houston, we'd like to verify that you cycled the O2 cryo fans. We saw the H2, but we didn't see the O2 get stirred up.
Yeah, Joe, we did, and kind of looked like we might have had a little stratification because right after we put them on, we had a cryo press light.
Okay, ECOM told me that might happen, and he was right.
Okay, Joe, we're ready to copy a flight plan update and your consumable.
Okay, Jack. The flight plan update has a couple of items in it, and the first one we'd like to do is to update the TFM values in the GNC checklist on page G9-2. These are fairly small changes, but in case you need them, we'd like you to have the exact numbers. Over.
Okay, just a minute, I'll get it out. Joe, is that the GNC checklist, page 9-2?
That's affirmative. GNC, page G9-2.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, on that page in line 04, column B, change the number from 03366 to 05253, over.
53.
Okay, and in line 05, column B, change from 11000 to 33661, over.
33661.
Okay, that's right. The only other thing I've got for you, Jack, is 3 additional questions for the booster systems debriefing, which is to take place at about 25 hours, and thought we'd pass these questions up to you early so you can consider them. Over.
Okay, we're ready to copy.
Okay, the first extra is, and let me get the original question, because this question says more specifically on item 2, and item 2 says, were there any significant changes in the noise vibration level during a single stage of powered flight? Specifically, describe your observations during the early S2 center engine cutoff and approximately 90 seconds prior to TLI cutoff, you reported a high vibration in the S4B. We'd like you to describe the buildup of this vibration and its behavior through cutoff. Over.
Okay, essentially what you'd like us to talk about is the vibration sequence during the early S2 cutoff of the center engine, and also describe the vibrations that we encountered during the S4B TLI burn. Is that correct?
That's it. Okay, the second extra question is for you, Jim, and it says, comparing this flight with your ride on Apollo 8, were there any significant differences in the powered flight environment?
Okay, we'll describe a comparison with 8 and 13 as far as powered flight goes.
Roger, and the last additional question is, what did the ordeal ball look like during TLIs? You know, we passed you an update to that setting, and we'd like to know whether it was riding right on zero or what during the burn. Over.
Okay, we'll do. We'll describe the ordeal ball.
Okay, that's it, and that's the whole flight plan update. I have a consumables update now if you want to listen to that.
Okay, Joe, we're ready. Copy.
Okay, at 23 hours, the total RCS is 1121. Quad A is 274. Quad Bravo is 286. Quad Charlie is 274. Quad Delta is 287. And the cryos are as follows. H2 Tank 1, 83%. H2 Tank 2, 86%. O2 Tank 1, 87%. O2 Tank 2, 87%. Over.
Okay, Joe, we got all those, and how are we comparing with where we should be in the timeline?
As I understand it, Jack, you're running slightly ahead of nominal in both those areas.
Okay, real fine.
No problems. And 13 Houston, that's all the business I got right now. I have a little news and plan of the day for you if you feel like listening to that a little later on.
Houston, 13.
Okay, 13 Houston, loud and clear again. Go ahead.
Okay, Joe, on the news, Jim would like to hold off a little bit on that, and I want to make a request to FAO if he would, sometime during the day when we have get a flight plan update with those activities we agreed to make optional during lunar orbit, and the few activities we were going to delete. It seems that I forgot, left that card back during the present suiting. I left it in the suit room.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, Jack, I understand FAO's working on that, and we'll have something for you later on.
Okay, we're not in any hurry.
Roger.
Okay, Houston, 13.
Okay, Jack, we copy the angles. You can go ahead and torque them.
Okay, Joe, the time of torquing will be 23 hours, 47 minutes, 30 seconds.
We copy. 13 Houston, go ahead.
For information, Joe, we're all configured back again now to our regular seat position, so if you're monitoring this.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
This is Apollo Control, continuing to monitor the air-ground from Apollo 13. Crew now in breakfast period. About an hour from now, the launch vehicle systems performance debriefing will be carried out between the crew of Apollo 13 and the flight controllers here in the mission control room. Additional questions over the ones that were pre-planned and included in the flight plan will be passed to the crew from the booster systems engineer. The philosophy being that many of the debriefing items can be carried on in flight during rather quiet periods of the coast phases of the flight, and thereby reduce the amount of debriefing done after recovery. Spacecraft now 102,342 nautical miles out from Earth. Velocity now 5,345 feet per second. Ground elapsed time now 24 hours, 5 minutes. Apollo Control continuing to stay live in anticipation of the morning news being read up by spacecraft communicator Joe Kerwin to the crew. And a rather quiet day, all in all, coming up at 30 hours and 40 minutes with mid-course correction burn number 2, which is the hybrid transfer maneuver to take the spacecraft out of the free return trajectory and place it in a non-free return, but still within the capability of the propulsion systems of the spacecraft to get back onto a free return. Paracynthian, should this maneuver not be made, would be 252 nautical miles above the moon. Post-burn, it's more in the neighborhood of 60.2 nautical miles if the maneuver is done on time and with the desired velocity change. 24 hours, 6 minutes, continuing to stand by.
Hello there, Houston, 13.
13 Houston, go ahead.
Guys, we forgot. We'd like to hear what the news is.
Okay, there's not a whole lot to it. Let's see. We'll start with the. Let's start with sports. What the heck? The Astros survived 8-7. The Braves got 5 or 6 runs in 5 runs in the 9th inning, but they just made it. And in the other important game of the day, the Cubs were rained out. I have all the rest of the scores. You can tell me if you want any of them. They had earthquakes in Manila and other areas of the island of Luzon. There were 3 tremors, and they kept the building shaken for about a half an hour or so. And it was about a 5 on the Richter scale. Okay, let's see. The Beatles have announced they will no longer perform as a group. The quartet is reported to have made in excess of $500 million during their short musical career. However, rumors that they will use this money to start their own space program are false.
Maybe we can borrow some.
Okay. West German Chancellor Willy Brandt, who witnessed your launch from the Cape yesterday, and President Nixon will complete their round of talks today Brandt reportedly came to the U.S. to seek assurance from the President to go ahead with talks with the Eastern European nations, especially East Germany, Poland, and Russia. Many air traffic controllers are still out, but reports indicate that they are slowly returning to work, and you'll be happy to know that the controllers here in the MOCR are still on the job.
Great.
Go ahead.
I just said thank goodness for that.
Okay. Some truck lines are being struck in the Midwest, and the school teachers have walked off the job in Minneapolis. Today's favorite pastime across the have you guys completed your income tax?
How do I apply for the extension?
Yeah, Joe, I gotta. Hey, that ain't too funny. Things kind of happen real fast down there, and I do need an extension. I didn't get mine filed. I'm really serious. Would you just?
You're breaking up the room down there.
Time in it.
We'll
I
see.
may be spending time in another quarantine besides the one that they're planning for me.
We'll see what we can do, Jack. We'll get with recovery and see if we can get the agent out there in the Pacific when you come back. By golly, let's see. In professional basketball, the Knicks beat the Milwaukee Bucks 110 to 102. And Billy Casper is leading the Masters after 54 holes with a 208. And spring football practice is in full swing. And that's about all the news we got. The updated plan of the day for you guys. The uniform will be service dress in-flight coverall garments with swords and medals. And tonight's movie shown in the lower equipment bay will be John Wayne, Lou Costello, and Shirley Temple in the flight of Apollo 13. Over.
Outstanding. Houston, this is 13. Is it true that Jack's income tax return was going to be used to buy the ascent fuel for the launch?
Well, considering that he's a bachelor and hasn't got that deduction to take, yeah.
Hey, Joe, I'm glad you brought that up because I was really serious about that.
Okay, Jack, we'll take care of it. Tom Stafford says he'll get an extension for you.
Okay.
And Jim McDivitt says, yeah, now that you mention it, he forgot to fill the ascent stage.
Suspicion to confirm.
Should give you very good performance on descent.
You should have a lot more hover time, huh?
That's right. Okay, crew, about the only other thing I've got for you right now is an update to your P-37 pad for liftoff plus 35. This is a change to the pad we gave you yesterday. The reason for the update is for weather avoidance in the mid-Pacific landing area at 70 hours, which is the return time for this pad. And in case the question arises in your mind, we don't expect any problem there for the end of the mission. The weather area is 20 degrees south of your end of mission landing point, and it appears to be moving to the south.
Okay, Joe, I'm ready to copy the pad.
Okay, GET of ignition is 03500. Delta VT 7883. Longitude -155. And the GET 400K 069er54. Over.
GETI is 03500, 7883, -155, 06954. Houston, Jack's going to try get down in the suit now for practice himself, and when he gets it out, we'll give you a dosimeter reading.
Okay, real good.
Houston, Apollo 13.
13 Houston, go.
Okay, we've retrieved Jack's dosimeter and it's reading 02022.
Okay, we copy 02022 on the dosimeter, Jim.
That's perfect.
Houston, at your convenience, we'd like the LEM CM Delta P reading.
And that reading is 0.65 PSI.
Copy, 0.65, thank you. Okay, you were a little broken up there, Jim, but I think it's getting better. We're ready for the launch vehicle systems debriefing whenever you are.
Okay, Houston, Apollo 13, you were cut out again. Say again, please.
Roger, Jim. We're ready for the launch vehicle systems debriefing whenever you are. Over.
Okay, stand by one. Okay, Houston 13, in answer to question 1, the changes in noise level occurred mainly between the first stage and the other stages. The other stages were about the same in noise level, very quiet. With the first stage, of course, had quite a bit of noise in the beginning, but which built up during high Q and then went quiet just after high Q.
Okay, copy that, Jim.
I might mention that the noise level during the first stage was not sufficient to be uncomfortable at all.
Roger, and I assume comm was okay.
That's confirmed. Comm was very good all during throughout the entire flight. Much better than I expected.
Okay.
Now, in answer to question 2, there was, of course, a vibration transient in the second stage that, due to the P5 engine going out, which occurred shortly before the engine went out, and slightly after that, then the S2 stage was very smooth.
Okay, Jim, I guess the significant point there is that you did notice the vibration before you saw the engine light.
That's right. We noticed the vibration, but it wasn't so such that we thought something catastrophic was going to happen. It just started vibration, and then the light came on, and then the vibration went away, and the stage itself was just moving.
Okay, copy that.
Yeah, that was all pretty short span. Just a second or so before and like a second afterwards, Joe.
Roger.
And on the S4B, the vibration of the vehicle itself was about the same as its powered flight, a very high frequency vibration.
That was that just during TLI, or did you notice that at insertion?
Well, it was a high frequency vibration, but was more noticeable during the TLI burn than it was during the boost phase flight.
Okay, understand.
I guess the S4B vibration during TLI was there all the time, although it seemed to grow to us as the burn progressed, although that may have been just due to its weight decrease.
Okay, you call us about 3.5 minutes, but I guess the thing was slowly building up throughout the whole burn, right?
That's right.
Okay, was it uncomfortable, or did it cause your vision to degrade or anything like that?
No, it was not uncomfortable at all, but I was recalling the ride on 8, and the S4B was much more smooth on 8 than it was on 13.
Copy that.
Okay, now in answer to number 3, we did not experience any unexpected transients, except that all of us noticed the PU shift. We thought it was more pronounced than we had expected it to be.
Okay, understand.
Joe, on that, I guess most of every time a PU shift occurred, we all of us glanced at the engine light. We could feel definite acceleration change.
Roger, understand, Jack.
And during the high Q portion of the flight, the alpha meter, to my knowledge, never got above 25%.
Okay.
In answer to number 4, we got a pretty good look at the thermal shroud on the IU after taking the limb away, and from our viewpoint, the shroud was completely intact. We saw no loose particles or parts of it floating at all.
Okay, Jim, understand.
And I guess we answered number 5. I don't think at any time do we have any communication problem during power flight.
Roger.
And answer to number 6, the answer is essentially no. We saw no running or suspected leak on the limb or the VSM.
Okay, Jim. I guess you described to us the non-propulsive venting on the S4B after the apse maneuver, and we copied that at the time.
Okay, Fred saw the S4B venting.
Yeah, we had already talked about that, Joe, and that was also visible when it, of course, when it did its evasive maneuver, when we were looking at it right close up.
Roger.
Okay, Joe, the last time we saw the S4B
that, Jim?
We're debating. We're somewhere between, say, 7:30 and 9 hours.
Okay.
But Joe, assuming the S4B is still stable, the object I was looking at was definitely tumbling.
Okay, Fred, as I recall, it was stable then, although it's tumbling now.
Okay. That's probably with the slot panel I picked up.
Right. Incidentally, I guess the guys in
And I
building
think
6... Go ahead, Jim.
I think we answered number 9. We at around 5:32, I think, is when we think the number 5 light came onto the S2 at a definite vibration, which is more than just the high frequency vibration we got with the normal S4 burn. And then the light came on. I called Inco, thinking from the training that it was 7:42, and looked up at the time and realized it was early. And then as soon after the light came on, the vibration stopped, and the engine, or the booster smoothed down. It was very smooth from there on.
Okay. This may be a stupid question, but do you have any idea what the frequency of it was?
Only to say that it was much higher. I couldn't really guess now. It's a rather rapid longitudinal vibration.
Okay, Jim, stand by now for midpoint. Switch on. Okay, Jim, it should be pretty good now. We copied you answering question number 9.
Do you want any more comments on the S4B vibration?
I don't think so. When you get all done, I'll make a quick check to see if the booster people have any additional questions. You skipped number 8, Jim. Could you go back to that for a second?
Okay, stand by. Our only comment there, Joe, was that the burn on TLI, to our knowledge, was about 3 3/4 seconds longer than had been predicted, and that was the only thing that we really noticed. Otherwise, looked like VI was nominal and cut off.
Okay, understand.
Okay, comparing the flight of 13 with Apollo 8, liftoff was about the same amount of vibration as I noticed on 8, but at the beginning of the flight there was less of a sidewise motion than we experienced on Apollo 8. The S1C separation felt more violent on 13 than did 8. Maybe that's because I was in a different seat, I don't know. But there was about 3 sharp transients of the cutoff and a couple of big bangs where we were thrown backwards or longitudinally on our straps before the S2 lit off. And the S2 was, of course, just as smooth on 13 as 8 except for the number 5 engine. And we did not experience the vibration that we experienced on 8 towards the end of the S2 burn. And the S4B had more vibration than we had on 8.
Okay, Jim, got all that.
The update on the ordeal ball was a good one. At the burn, we were just about 8 degrees. We had the pitch down. The yaw was right on all the way through the entire burn, and just towards the end of the burn, the ball started going into the blackened pitch a little bit.
Okay, sounds good. We'll give Mike Wash a gold star on that one. Okay, Jim, stand by one while I see if we have any extra questions. Jim, while we're waiting to see if they have any more questions, I'd like to read you the booster people's preliminary analysis on the S2 cutoff. Over.
That'd be very interesting. Go ahead.
Okay, preliminary analysis of the data indicates that the center S2 engine vibrated at a somewhat higher amplitude than we've seen on previous flights, and it started at about 160 seconds into the S2 burn. As a result of these vibrations, the engine chamber pressure decreased to the level where the 2 low-level thrust sensors, the thrust OK sensors, initiated center engine cutoff. Early evaluation of data indicates that no damage occurred to the engine, and the cause of the increased vibration amplitude is still under investigation. Over.
Well, I'm glad it was the center engine.
Yeah, right.
Joe, do you have any word on what march we had for TLI?
At the time of TLI, as I recall, you had 6 seconds longer than the nominal burn, which was 3 seconds longer than the 3 sigma low burn, and you were also go for a second opportunity TLI if we'd required one.
Okay, we were just wondering because it appeared to us that we had a longer TLI burn than had been predicted.
Yes, you did. We confirmed that cutoff time just about as you saw it, and I don't have an explanation for it, but it was within the 3 sigma margins. Houston.
Go ahead.
Roger, we have no further questions. All the answers were clear and satisfactory, and we thank you very much. You can press on with the rest of your busy day.
Righto.
This is Apollo Control. The launch vehicle systems debriefing has just concluded. No further questions from the booster controllers passed through spacecraft communicator Joe Kerwin. Apollo 13 now 106,747 nautical miles out from Earth. Velocity continuing to slow down, now 5,179 feet per second. spacecraft will reach the midpoint in distance, where it's equally far from the Earth to the spacecraft or from the spacecraft to the Moon, at ground elapsed time of 27 hours, 20 minutes, 49 seconds. At that time, it will be 112,070 nautical miles both ways, to the Earth and to the Moon. Continuing to stand by on the air-to-ground circuit for further conversation.